If you walked into a room and felt almost immediately that you didn't quite fit in, Sarah here, aka the business fixer. So I've experienced that feeling more than I probably would want to admit, even though most people will see me as confident. I can walk into a room of strangers without hesitation. I can stand on stage and speak to a large audience without flinching. I can hold a conversation with anyone, and I'm definitely not shy about being direct. But I safely say that confidence, it doesn't stop you having insecurities. You simply get better at hiding them. So for a long time, I genuinely believe I didn't get on particularly well with women. Not all women, but a lot of women. I was never sure whether it was because I was too ambitious or because I do not have children and therefore different life experience to many women that I'd met. And it easily have been even my directness. You know, my legal background, for example, taught me to be straightforward and clear, which is always appreciated out in the real world. Whatever the reason, I'd created an image of myself that made me gravitate more towards men because they seemed to accept my communication style without question. But everything changed recently when I found myself in several rooms of strong, inspiring women. They understood me, they welcomed me, and they didn't find my ambition unsettling or my directness too much. They simply accept me as I was. And this was the moment when I realised that I'd simply been in the wrong rooms. The image I had been carrying was built on experiences that no longer reflected who I am today. And this is exactly where imposter syndrome begins for business owners. It has very little to do with whether we're even capable. It has everything to do with the internal image we have of ourselves, because that image is often outdated and completely out of sync with the level in which we're actually operating now, right? So what imposter syndrome actually look like for business owners? Well, it doesn't exactly announce itself loudly. For most business owners, it shows up quietly and subtly, and in ways that affect how we work, how we lead, how we make decisions. It can feel like we are constantly questioning whether we know enough, whether we're doing enough, or even though the evidence actually is showing that we are more than capable. It can even look like we're downplaying our achievements. You know, we know that we've worked hard and earned the results that we've created, yet we find ourselves brushing them off or even attributing them to luck or good timing. And now this may seem humble on the surface, but it actually comes from a deeper belief that we don't feel like we are fully responsible for our success. Imposter syndrome, you know, it also appears when opportunities feel bigger than our self-image. Now, you might step into a new level of work or attract a larger client and suddenly doubt creeps in. You begin to wonder whether you can deliver at the standard expected, even though you've delivered consistently before. Another common sign is finding visibility uncomfortable. And believe it or not, this is actually something I personally struggle with. I'm not visible enough. Yes, I do these live videos. Yes, I do reels. Yes, I'm not out my content out, but I'm not visible to the level in which I know that I should be. Okay, so, you know, for example, when people introduce you as an expert or when you're placed into a position of authority, you can feel uncomfortable, exposed or undeserving. Instead of seeing these moments as a reflection of your capability, you begin to worry that potentially overestimated yourself. I'll find out in a minute. It's also common to compare yourself to other business owners who appear good and polished and fully in control. This could be the fact that some of you often look at me, for example, and compare in the fact that I look like constantly in control. But that doesn't mean that I don't have my wobbles. I had all this week, for example, right? You only see those public facing moments, not the private worries. Yet your brain uses comparison to reinforce your own doubts. Okay? So the key thing I want really to establish here is that it's quite common that those ones that are high performing, actually how they appear and how they're actually feeling, there's often that disparity. Okay? It just simply means that the internal image that we're carrying isn't actually caught up to our current reality. And ultimately, these patterns are all something, all have something in common. They do not come from a lack of skill or lack of capability. They come from a mismatch between how we see ourselves and the actual level we're operating at now. And that creates tension, and that tension is exactly what imposter syndrome thrives on. Once you understand how imposter syndrome appears and the fact that that internal image needs to change, we can finally shift that root cause rather than trying to fix the symptoms. So here's where the real shift happens. It's not about confidence, it's about image. And this is where we often get confused, where we think that imposter syndrome is actually a confidence issue. It's not. Because you can be confident like I am, you can be articulate like I am, even bold. I still suffer with imposter syndrome, because the real issue is actually the gap between, as I said, between who you used to be and who you are now. And your external world will often evolve faster than your internal image. You grow your business, your skill set, you grow your experience, your internal perception doesn't automatically update with it. So even though you're capable, proven and respected, your mind still sees you as that earlier version of yourself, right? And this is why achievement doesn't fix imposter syndrome, no matter how much you accomplish. If your internal image is outdated, the doubt will remain. Like trying to fit the current version of you into an old frame that no longer suits you. It feels comfortable, tight, and slightly wrong. So updating your image is the key to reducing self-doubt. And that doesn't mean pretending to be someone that you're clearly not. It means recognizing who you actually are today, not who you were years ago or 10 years ago or even months ago, or in the room that once made you doubt yourself. The thing is, I'm not pretending with this that you don't have people who may well question, may well make you doubt yourself, okay? Because actually sometimes those things do happen in the real world and in the reality of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean how they see you has any reflection on your self-worth. It's actually more of a reflection of them. So remember that. Okay. So here are the 5 tips to help you overcome imposter syndrome, right? So the first, reframe the story your mind telling you. Your mind is an excellent storyteller. And remember this feeling of where we're in this comfort zone. Actually, we're in the comfort zone where our mind teaches us this is where it's safe. Actually, sometimes those things where we think we're safe, we're not safe in any way, shape or form. So remember, your mind will trick you. So when imposter syndrome hits, your thoughts often present themselves as facts, even though they're actually fears disguised. Before you accept what your mind is actually telling you, pause and question it. Ask yourself where the evidence actually is. Not imagined evidence, real evidence. What proof do you have that you don't know what you're doing? What proof do you have that you do? And you discover that your fear has no factual foundation. And this process interrupts emotional thinking and forces your brain back in logic. The more often you do this, your mind learns not to jump to worst case scenarios. You're training yourself to actually challenge fear rather than accept it. Number 2, update your inner image to match who you are now. If your internal image is shaped by older beliefs or assumptions, it will continue to influence how you see yourself today. And one of the most effective ways to shift this is identifying the image you currently hold and the phrases that you reinforce to yourself. And I will share with you a technique that I have learned from amazing Leanne Roman, who runs Ignite Yoga. And I've been working with Leanne for a number of years, and genuinely she has changed my whole entire life in terms of how I see myself. She's taught me so much, and the skills in which I wouldn't be where I am today without her teaching me these skills. So the first one is, and you know I talk about journaling a lot. Journaling is a big thing, right? So what you start with journaling about whatever comes to you about your image, right? And once on the page, you read it back and you pull out the phrases and keywords that show you what you've really been believing about yourself, okay? You then take some space away from it, usually probably a good 24 hours. And when you come back with a clearer mind, you then look at those keywords and decide what you want to change them to. From here, you rewrite the phrases using the new words and create more detailed paragraph that reflects who you are now rather than the older version of yourself that you have been carrying around. And those new phrases become affirmations that you use going forward. So, and then to embed that change, and this is a specific meditation technique that's also been taught to me again. And in that, I visualize writing out my old belief, crossing it out in my mind, and then visualizing burning that piece of paper, and then rewriting new belief as an affirmation in my mind. I then say those affirmations out loud every single day. And over time, this overrides the previous beliefs that you've thought about yourself and strengthens that new image that actually reflects who you are now. And I'll give you a prime example. I'm talking about where I've realised going in these rooms where I'm in front of these inspiring women, I realised I tied it back to those affirmations. And one of those affirmations talks about me feeling valued, respect, cherished, right? And I hadn't been always feeling that. And actually, I've been that affirmation for quite a while. And then all of a sudden, actually, I'm like, you know what? That affirmation is coming into reality. So this stuff does work. Now, obviously, a lot of the time, I'm talking to you very practical, business techniques, okay? This stuff that some of you might think is woo, but actually it really, really is a game-changing part in terms of the mindset shifts that you can make to actually stop holding yourself back, okay? So number 3, let go of the pressure to excel everything. And as business owners, we want to do everything ourselves, okay? A large part of imposter syndrome comes from the fact that we want to sell in every single business area: sales, finance, leadership, delivery, operations, and marketing. But they all require different strengths, and it's unrealistic to expect yourself to operate at the highest level across every single one. We all have different skills. So make sure that instead of pushing yourself to do everything, focus on the areas that naturally create the most value and get support in the areas that drain you. This is not about weakness, it's about working in a way that aligns with your strengths, your energy, and the way you lead best. When you remove pressure to be exceptional in every direction, imposter syndrome has far less room to grow. Okay, 4th, Create a structure that supports your thinking. Imposter syndrome thrives in chaos. When you move through a week with no rhythm or structure, your brain is overloaded and your emotional response is intensified. Clear planning, protected thinking time, and weekly priorities create that sense of control that reduces doubt significantly. The more you structure, the more you build the structure in a week, the calmer your mind becomes. When your mind is calm, it becomes much easier to trust your own decisions. Okay? Because many business owners mistake busyness for progress when actually it only makes that imposter syndrome worse. Number 5, surround yourself with rooms that match your level. Environment has a significant influence on how you see yourself. I know this is a key thing for me, right? The rooms you choose either reinforce those old assumptions or help you into who you are becoming, right? When you feel yourself in environments that misunderstand you or do not align with your values, it's easy to then get yourself into shrinking or questioning yourself. And these rooms, not necessarily wrong, they're just simply right for you and your growth, okay? They may well suit others, they just don't suit you. However, when you surround yourself with people who challenge you, support you, understand you, see you clearly, it becomes much easier to embody that person you actually are. When I stepped into rooms full of strong, confident and ambitious women, I finally felt seen, understood and accepted for the version of myself I am now. It reminded me it was never me, but it clearly had been the wrong rooms. So this is why the rooms that you choose matter. When you're in the right rooms, imposter syndrome has far less hold on to, okay? So now, imposter syndrome doesn't disappear because you finally achieve enough. It disappears when your internal image evolves to match your current capability. You understand who you are now, not who you were years ago. Your decisions start to feel clearer. Your leadership feels stronger and your confidence becomes honest rather than performative. It's not about pretending, it's about finally seeing yourself properly, okay? If imposter syndrome is affecting you and how you show up in the business or the decisions that you're making, then we can potentially have a conversation about what could potentially be holding you and or your business. So make sure if you do want to have a chat, then just comment the word chat. But if you also want to kind of get a deep understanding of where your business currently is in terms of its performance, and you want to be looking at a number of different issues or a number of different aspects of business and seeing where you actually are, then just simply comment the word performance, and I can send you the link to the business performance health check, and it will literally grade you in a number of different areas on a percentage, so you can see it will give you an actual report that you can work from. So I hope you found today's one interesting. It was quite funny when I was writing the original blog that's associated with this, because originally I was going to do it last week, and last week, if you've seen my content, it was a little bit crazy, to say the least. I had a really, really great week, but it meant things like the blog to get drafted. And actually, I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason, because had I wouldn't have gone into the rooms that I'm talking about now, and this imposter syndrome thing not have been so prominent if I had written it last week. So this is where I've been in amazing rooms during the course of last week, where I finally do feel like I am understood, valued. And I think, don't be afraid to talk out of rooms that do align with you. Don't be afraid to even, walk away from clients who don't align with you. And I think it's sometimes quite a challenging thing when we are so reliant on potential financial income that we're like, no, I just have to work with this particular client, even though I know that they don't feel right. because of the financial implications of it. And I think if we actually clear energy and we are then in alignment with those other people who are our level, our wavelengths, actually then attracted to you. So there were my thoughts. Thank you guys again for listening. Like I said, if you would like to find out a bit about where your business is at in terms of performance, then just simply comment the word performance and I can send you the link. Thanks guys, and I will see you